In this video, I'll cover the Snoozy tomato ingredient in Pokemon Sleep and talk about all the different Pokemon that can have this ingredient as an option. Overall, this video is going to be quite messy. I'm just going to structure it ingredients, berries, and then skill specialists. And then when it comes to the ingredient specialists that do carry the tomato, I am not quite sure which one you should go for. The big reason is there are so many of them that carry the tomato. The tomato overall is not a good ingredient. You just need to meet the requirement for the dishes, and then for the most part you want different ingredients to be fillers and whatnot. The other thing is this is a type of ingredient that very much depends on your collection. So you might have done some early choices with your Pokemon. You can see the Venusaur here. That makes it so that you may not have to look for a mono tomato farmer or like a dedicated Pokemon for it. So in my case, early on, I invested in a Victory Bell that was not good. It has the double tomato here, and then I think it has potatoes, something like that, but it's got an awful nature, bad sub skills, but it's level 35. So for me personally, I also have a Venusaur that's level 50 that has the awful mixed set here instead of the triple honey. So I don't even need a dedicated tomato farmer. Oh, and did I mention I have a Mr. Mime that I also invested in, and it has the mixed set as well. So there comes the tomatoes. And then later on the channel here, so subscribe, I will make some more detailed cooking videos, and we will see that not only does the tomato have a low value, it is a very common ingredient, and it's not even needed for the most part for a lot of the current dishes, so that could potentially change in the future. But for the most part, I will just briefly highlight and describe the ingredient Pokemon that does have the tomato. But contrary to most of the other videos in the series, there is no definitive answer on the tomatoes in my opinion. And so it very much depends on your collection. And I would say this topic in general is one of the reasons why you should join a Discord community for the game. You should highly consider the Nirtheart Discord. It is a really great place for Pokemon fans, particularly if you in general have a strong stance against cheating. There is a slight entry fee, there's a small fee you have to pay just to gain access for the first time, and after that you get to keep the access for as long as you want, and that is dependent on you following the rules, but there is no really big issues with that in Nirtheart. And then an honorable mention is the Bropenings Discord, which you can find by hopping over to his channel. I think for the most part, the link to his channel should be in all of the video descriptions on my YouTube videos, just because I'm a big fan, YouTube member of his, big supporter, and just overall very satisfied with his content. So what I wanted to make a point out of that was in the Rate My Pokemon text channels, you have a little bit more space for specialized guidance depending on your collection. So good members can give some follow-up questions, and you can go a little bit back and forth, look at different options, and then you can decide more so than go for Toxicroak, go for Golem. You know, some of these Pokemon are incredibly one-dimensional, but the tomato ingredient is just not one of those ingredients. And so that explains a little bit my frustration with this ingredient and also the long intro here. So I think the first Pokemon that we're going to have a look at here is the Victory Bell. One thing that I forgot to mention in the soft potato video is that, well, I did point out that these two Pokemon are very similar. The Victory Bell overall is better. It is the exact same speed. Victory Bell gains more inventory because it has another evolution. It has a higher ingredient rate, and it's got the better main skill to an extent. It depends a little bit, but for the most part, I personally prefer the Charge Energy S, just because sometimes the energy for all Pokemon doesn't pull its weight, and the team falls a little bit behind. But this Pokemon is just gonna chill out at like 130 to 150 percent all day, every day. And with the overcharge strategy as well, you can bring in the Victory Bell for the potatoes, for example, if that's what you're looking for a limited amount of time without really having to worry about needing to sleep overnight with a Pokemon for it to regain its health. The point here is the Victory Bell in every single way, and including the berry, which was what I forgot to mention in the potato video, the berry is stronger on the grass type than the psychic type, and it's by a bit too. Let's take a look at it. So we have the Duranberry, which is grass, at level 30, that is 61, and then we have the Mago Berry, which is 55. So there's a big discrepancy here. I don't understand why they did my boy Mr. Mime dirty like this and made it just a duplicate. Potentially it is for the green grass. Then there could be days where or weeks you have the Mago Berry favored but not the Durin. But even the area is the same. Durin and Mago is for Lapis Lakeside, and it's just, I hope that they give Mr. Mime a buff at some point, because it is a little bit depressing. These Pokemon being ingredient specialists, and they're basically identical. Which is to say, depending on your collection, you may settle on a triple tomato Mr. Mime, it being a poor ingredient overall, Mr. Mime not being that good of a Pokemon, and you can pretty much just retire it at level 30. I do remember the long series that Bropenings did on ingredient Pokemon as well, and if I'm not mistaken, that was his recommendation too, that the tomato mono, if you even want to call it that, because at that point you just cap it at 30 in my opinion, and don't really even think about the third here, and call it a day. The Mr. Mime is quite rare. In addition to that, it is just very hard to raise. And so, yeah, I think overall, throughout the video here, potentially the Mr. Mime is the better tomato option. And then you preserve the Victory Bell for potatoes, which is a much more important ingredient. And overall, the Victory Bell is a little bit stronger than the Mr. Mime. Tomatoes is a frustrating ingredient overall. We can have a look at the Abomasnow. It has the potential for triple tomato. And then we did have a look at the Venusaur briefly. It can carry the double tomato. Venusaur is an S tier Pokemon if you get the mono honey. So don't consider the potato and don't consider the tomatoes on the Venusaur. Just hunt that mono honey and forget that the tomato exists on there. And then we have the Doug Trio. I have a perfect, and I mean perfect, Doug Trio, with the exception, it is mono tomato. It is so depressing. I was considering to use it as a tomato farmer, but then I just grew more and more frustrated with the tomato as an ingredient. And overall, the leaks are so strong that on the Doug Trio, that also doesn't have all that great an inventory, getting 4 higher value ingredients and 3 is going to be a good one. So on the Doug Trio, go for the leaks. Forget that the mono tomato exists. I wouldn't recommend it even as a mono tomato, just because the Doug Trio does its role as the best leak farmer in the game. And at that point, we're just left with berry Pokemon. For the most part, as I've mentioned in numerous videos in the series here, you kind of just want to go for the category. So if it's a skill specialist or a berry specialist, don't care about the ingredient list. And then we have Slowbro, or we can show off Slowking. Tomato in the last slot. The Butterfree has the double tomato, but for the most part, you probably want to just preserve the berry specialist. If you happen to find triple honey, that is a good pattern. And then we can have a look at the Steelix. It does have the potential for a triple tomato, but overall, the bean sausage is higher value. The potato is higher value. So it just depends here what you get. And for the most part, it is the skill and the berries that you really want to look for in the Steelix. So yet again, just not a good option. And then we have the slacking. Slacking, I'm not too big a fan of. So potentially you could consider just doubling up on the triple tomatoes here with that high ingredient rate, where most of the dishes you're not going to need too many tomatoes. But yeah, that's actually it, with the exception of Obama Snow. I don't think I mentioned Obama Snow yet in this video. If I did, I apologize. But it is an ingredient specialist. It does have the potential for triple tomato, but it is such a good egg farmer that just forget that the triple tomato exists. Go for the double egg here, and it's gonna serve you well. The last part here, I just want to quickly go over the Mr. Mime. We can consider the ingredient rate, which is low. Then we go for the ingredient finding M. We can have a look at the speed. It is decent. So for the most part, you just want some inventory. And then maybe because the main skill is not too good, you go for that rash nature and call it a day. So for the Mr. Mime, if you can find some inventory, some ingredient finding up, either as a sub skill or a nature or both, you're going to be pretty set. And in terms of the ingredients here, go for the double tomato and use it as a tomato ingredient specialist. And then I wouldn't personally fuel the Mr. Mime towards level 60. It's not going to be worth it for the most part. It's mostly just like if you somehow find a really good sub skill here at level 50 potentially, and over time you just have an abundance of dream shards, an abundance of Mr. Mime candy, which I doubt, maybe a couple of years down the line, then you can consider to just boost it up to level 50 in one go to hit that third sub skill. So for the most part, the tomato is a frustrating ingredient. It very much depends on your collection, and I would say joining a Discord community for Pokemon Sleep is going to help you out a bunch with figuring out what to do, because it is very context dependent on which Pokemon you already have, and yeah, factors like that. So hope you enjoyed this video. You can leave a like if you did. The bubble went the other way, and I hope that you enjoyed watching. So see you next time.